Pretty Little Liars, the TV show, sometimes deals with disturbing and problematic topics. We provide a list of content warnings in the episode description.
Hello and welcome to Dead End. I'm Emily.
I'm Brenton.
And we have 2 new episodes of Pretty Little Liars to recap. And I almost said reconvene too. That wasn't the word I wanted though.
This is gather around the table for another episode.
But we are going to recap it.
We are.
And we're going to talk about it.
From front to back.
And then you're going to tell us your theories.
That's right.
That's about how this goes, just in case you're new here.
Yeah, welcome. You picked a random episode, but hey, welcome. You know, we're glad to have you on.
It's never random. You know what? Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And this week, Emily's going to get to the bottom of it.
Me?
Emily on the show.
Okay.
But you also.
I was like, fun fact, I have seen the show before.
No, but we get Emily in investigative mode this week.
She put on her Nancy Drew outfit because Spencer was taking a week off.
And when she puts on her Nancy Drew outfit, she gets more aggressive.
And she gets things done.
So
she's had the most results thus far. We can get into it. That was like major problem solving.
Absolutely. And Spencer's just off chasing random leads, getting them stuck places. Like, A should actually be worried about, like, Emily's... Well, no, it's all following along. So there's that. All right, should we jump right in?
We shall.
All right, episode 27, The Devil You Know. Ian's suicide note is displayed on some sort of tablet, which I'm sure was a... it didn't really have, I would say, like, sponsorship because of how much they used the tablet this episode, but it didn't really show off the...
what it was.
Yeah, so maybe not. Maybe it was just an easier way for them to all, like, see the suicide note without having to result on it with, like, a flip phone. Aria asks how Emily has it, and Hannah's like, I took the picture, took a picture of it and sent it to her. They all wonder why Ian committed... Oh yeah, this is a big episode ahead on this one. Why Ian committed suicide and wrote the note. The friends all try and sound more reassured that, like, he's out of there. Like, kind of like the, like, oh, yeah, you know, he's gone. We're going to be good now. And Emily's like, what the hell are you talking about? A is still out there. Garrett then approaches their lunch table at school, and they ask why he's there. And he's like, I'm returning evidence to the field hockey office. He apologizes to the friends for them being persons of interest and mentions that Ian's body was decayed and dead at least a week.
Yeah, that they're lucky that he looked the way he did because, like, you know, decay. Because he'd been dead for a week.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
My first theory wasn't on the money, but my second theory... Nobody listened back to more than a week.
Is Ian dead?
So I think there's a new... Oh, no, I don't think he's dead. Even though Ian was hanging there with his neck tied in a rope for like a good solid, like probably 10 minutes. Yeah, he's alive. He walks away.
Wait, you've made some bold claims on this show, and you know that wasn't your most egregious, but I'm glad you're holding yourself accountable.
Yeah, pretty much so. Because I felt myself being proud of thinking of that. It's like, you've had this for like a week. You thought he was alive. Garrett walks away, and Hannah wonders how Ian was dead that long when he was texting Melissa. Emily says it was A texting Melissa, and Spencer says, who cares if A got to Ian? He was scum. Hannah and Aria leave the table, but Spencer stays behind to ask Emily, like, what's wrong with her? Like, what's wrong? Emily says, A is still out there and involved. Doesn't that make you nervous? Spencer says, yeah, but not as much as Ian did, and leaves.
Ask
Emily.
not what you can do for your stalker, but ask what your stalker can do for you.
Yeah, mutually beneficial, I guess. Emily says, Emily grabs her tablet and looks at the note again and stands up to see a newspaper pronouncing Allie's killer found. She gets a text from A that says, hey, Em, is it just me? Or does that suicide note look familiar? Emily scans around the school looking for A.
This triggers Emily to go, and you'll get into it later, but I don't know how she got here.
No,
I don't know how that clue turned into the actions that she does.
And why it's specifically Emily to
Because
like
she
pull the
used to
rabbit out of the hat.
Watch Jeopardy with her parents. No,
Dude.
Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, she's smart.
You don't spell in Jeopardy. She's smart. Some of us barely keeping up.
So it has to be a specific category sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa is sat on the couch while Mrs. Hastings is avoiding phone calls from journalists to the house phone. Spencer comes down and grabs a call to chew at a journalist, but it turns out it's her grandma. Passes it over to her mom. Mr. Hastings answers, saying he reached out to Ian's aunt, and the aunt said she wants nothing to do with him or their family, and they don't want to hold a funeral. The Hastings debate what to do with him, and Spencer says, we need to give him a funeral, and she thinks Melissa needs this. The parents say they'll think about it. Hannah and Caleb are in Hannah's kitchen. Hannah asks why he's here, and Caleb says he's here to check in. Hannah says, you don't have to do that. We only had one date, or one date does not a relationship make. Caleb then goes to leave, and Hannah apologizes and asks, have you seen a dead body? And Caleb replies, yes. No follow-up.
To which I was like, oh my God, it's just like, what's the movie where the kids go see the body?
Right.
Because I couldn't, I've seen the movie once and it was with you, and
Yeah.
that's all I know about it.
It's based on Stand By Me, based on a Stephen King novel, and has all of the child actors who would grow up to be in various states of horrible mental health. Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, Phoenix. It's River Phoenix.
River.
And then the one guy who's seems well adjusted now. I forget his name. Crap.
It's okay.
Yeah, he's like he's the fat kid in that haha, and then grew up in skinny and good looking.
Mm-hmm.
By modern beauty standards. So there you go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not a happy film, so
no, it's just this weird little like legacy tied to it. I mean, not because of that film, but like Hollywood chewing up and spitting out child actors.
Mm-hmm.
But Caleb seems well adjusted. Ashley enters, saying she couldn't reach Hannah and was freaked out. And walks away from the two of them to give them some space. And Hannah follows up to her and asks her what's wrong and if something happened with Dad. Ashley breaks down and says the whole past year has been hell. Like worrying about you and like worrying every time you leave that door that in case you're gonna come back. Like I'm always memorizing what you wore. Really giving us the pathos of the parents in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
In a way that we don't get otherwise.
No, because Spencer's parents couldn't tell you what she wore.
No. Depending on the day, they couldn't tell you what she looks like. Hannah says...
Did she pack a sandwich and she got the movies?
Exactly. Yeah, she'll be back. It's been a couple days. Kids need their independence. Hannah says they don't have to worry about this anymore and embraces her mom. And then Caleb awkwardly sneaks out the back door. Aria and Fitz talk about the night's events. Fitz says it's going to take a long time for that night to go away. Oh, they're in his office at the college. And grabs her leg. Jackie,
she's sitting on his desk.
Yes. And then Jackie rounds the corner, and they don't see her, but she can see them through Fitz's office door. She then knocks to interrupt them as Aria jumps up. Fitz introduces Aria as his former student. Jackie says, oh, I know you. You're Mr. Montgomery's daughter. Aria says, oh, yes, I was on my way to visit my dad and stopped by to visit Mr. Fitz. Jackie says, you're not her teacher anymore. She can call you by your first name. Jackie then states her business and leaves.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Aria then grills Fitz about being introduced as his student. Fitz says, well, you made me a pit stop in your visiting plans, and they agree to both work on being more transparent about their relationship. No wonder you start going after Jason. Emily is picking up a package and recognizes the store clerk. She asks if she knows him, and he's like, no, I don't think so.
Which I had the same thought I had watching the episode. I didn't put it together, though. I was like, oh my God, he looks kind of like Noel Kahn, which is literally what I said with the guy with the money. I was like, oh my God.
It's Noel Kahn.
He kind of looks like he looks like a different Noel Kahn.
A little bit.
And then I was like, oh.
Mm-hmm. Similar body build, too.
But it's the same guy.
Yeah.
I didn't put that together until they fed it to us.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't recognize this guy, though. Like, you only got him in that one scene and it was dark, so it would have been tough
the background characters, not the front.
It would have been hard to place him. Emily asks if he went to Rosewood, and he says, no, I have to go make a delivery. Emily opens the package that she was picking up to a map of what we later see as the graveyard. Emily walks away and sees his picture on the wall with the name Logan Reed. She has a flashback to the sting they set up in season 1 to trap Ian. Turns out he was the guy who delivered the cash that Garrett stopped. Mrs. Hastings visits Spencer in her room. Mentions Wren called to see how Spencer and Melissa were. Spencer is studying, and Mrs. Hastings like, wow, look at how you're always working so hard, even though you the school says you don't have to work on turning your homework or whatever. And Mrs. Hastings mentions how they arranged a funeral for next week and how she and her dad were moved that Spencer wanted to do this for Melissa. Spencer's like, Melissa needs this. Mrs. Hastings say they invited the friends to the funeral, and she apologizes for separating them and not believing Spencer, and asks for another chance. Spencer agrees and hugs her.
What are you gonna do? No, Mom?
Right. I mean, maybe not, depending on how much you're nursing a grudge, but...
Yeah, but at 16, 17?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I still live in your house. Spencer is just people need hugs on this show. Spencer needs a hug. And, Mrs. Hastings is like a parent in short bursts. Emily reads a book, but is distracted. She grabs her tablet and phone and looks at something that we can't see. We then cut to Spencer looking at rings online and sees the price for engagement rings. We then see her search for knockoff engagement rings, but she gets defeated and shuts her laptop. She then gets a text that says, would mommy hug a thief? It gets a text from A. Sorry. Tell the truth, Spence, or you'll get that ring when you least expect it.
I like the idea that it could have been like Aria.
A random person. Spencer, would mommy hug a liar? You're so good at these things.
Is it a word puzzle?
Exactly. We see the outside of Jason's house as a hooded figure walks up the steps to smash a window, but then Jason appears behind them and grabs the figure's arm. Cut to Aria opening her door to Jason as Mike walks up behind them and into the house. Aria scolds Mike as he walks away, and Aria apologizes to Jason for his behavior and thanks Jason for not calling the police. Jason says, don't worry about it. And Aria's like, well, if I tell my parents, they'll flip out. And Jason says, you know what? He knows he's busted. It's fine. We can leave it there. Aria asks why he didn't call the police. And Jason says he's seen enough cops at his house for 1 year. Aria thanks him again. Jason does not turn around to leave, so she closes the door on him.
My favorite thing about Aria is it's like she has social skills, but she just drops them.
Well, this is on Jason.
No,
she says,
I know, but it's
thanks again. And then he's just like, mm-hmm.
She's just like, goodbye.
Yeah. Emily starts putting together something. We don't quite know. A case file, maybe? Of some sort, looking at Ian's suicide note. Hannah approaches Caleb at school and apologizes to Caleb for being around their intense family emotions. She talks it down as sorry for the chick flick last night. And Caleb's like, it's okay. You're lucky to have a mom that checks up on you. Not just my foster mom who cashes the checks. He mentions that they have an arrangement that as long as he shows up to the child service meetings and she gets the check, then, they're all good. Hannah says, there are probably better people out there. You could totally find a better situation. And Caleb says, sure, but you could just as easily go from hugs to punches, something like that.
Mm-hmm. It could always be worse.
Exactly. Emily walks into class and tells the friends that Ian didn't commit suicide. Emily says the letter is made up entirely of A texts. She shows the sheet, cutting out the individual A texts. Emily says there are only 5 people who know about these texts, us and A. Spencer says, then Ian never confessed. And Emily says, it gets worse. I know where Logan Reed works, the guy who delivered the money. Emily goes to confront Logan at work. He says he doesn't know anything. He said he saw a posting online to make a delivery, and they would pay in cash, and he took it. Emily asks if Ian paid him, and he says, no, it was a woman. And Emily's like, well, what did she look like? And he says, I never met her. We spoke over the phone and used a P.O. box for the drop money. Emily says, what did she sound like? And he's like, well, if I heard her again, I like the voice, I would recognize it. Caleb and his foster mom argue in the school hallway as she's angry at him for getting blindsided with the school meeting and how like much he doesn't know about him. Pretty much, it's just like, how dare you drag me into a school meeting and make me look like an idiot for not knowing anything about you. Hannah overhears down the hall. Aria confronts Mike at school about going after Jason. Mike's like, I was just bored, okay? And Aria's like, just tell me, why are you doing that? Mike says, I didn't take anything. I'll put back Emily's camping gear, okay? And Aria's like, that was you? Did you break into Spencer's house and body check me too? And Mike says, I didn't mean to.
And then we start going, why? But we don't ask. Aria doesn't really ask.
He's like, I feel bad. And Aria's like... wondering why are you like doing this to my friend's house? Couldn't you break into strangers? And he's like, I have.
My extracurriculars are robust.
Are robbery and shoulder exactly, it's shoulder checking his sister. And he won't do it again, but please don't tell mom and dad, or else, you know what? If you tell them, they're gonna fight again. Worst bluff ever. Are they gonna...
He's got nothing to hold over her now, though.
Yeah, that's fair. Spencer asks Melissa if they can talk. Spencer says if she expects Melissa to be honest with her, then Spencer needs to be honest with Melissa. Spencer starts talking about being angry about Melissa choosing Ian over her and is going to go into something before Mrs. Hastings interrupts her and asks her to set the table, so then Spencer walks away. Hannah comes downstairs in a dress for the funeral to get Ashley's approval. Ashley says it's a funeral, not a Nicki Minaj concert. Hannah asks if she can dance on his grave and throw confetti. Ashley says you don't need to call attention to it when you're burying someone you hate. Hannah asks if this was how Grandpa's funeral was, and Ashley's like, I wouldn't know. I didn't attend my father's funeral. Hannah asks if anyone went, and Ashley says probably whatever girlfriend he had. Hannah asks, like, how do you know if he had one? And Ashley says, I paid for it. Hannah asks if she ever regrets not going, and Ashley says no. Shot of the church with the bell ringing. Hannah wonders aloud, who's ringing it this time? Spencer then thanks the friends for them all being there. Emily asks what the cops were doing out front, and Spencer says, my parents thought it would be good in case unwanted guests show up. Hannah makes a joke about crashers coming, and Aria's like, it would be more like an angry mob. Spencer walks away, and Emily steps in front of her to tell her Ian didn't hire Logan. Spencer's like, I can't talk about this right now. And Emily's like, you haven't called me back. Spencer said, I don't want to talk about it and can't do this anymore. I wonder if A wants to keep us involved and interested as just our life goes by. And Emily asks, don't we owe it to Allie to find the truth? And Spencer says, nothing we ever do will bring her back, and I need to keep the focus on the people who are still here. Even though Emily can't talk to Spencer about this right now, she has two other friends, so she has no excuse for what she does later. Aria sees Fitz walk in and is excited. Fitz then gets stopped by her parents, saying they didn't know he was coming. Fitz says, well, I wasn't planning on it originally, but I need to be here for after talking to Aria, I need to be here for the student body, which Aria looks sad about. And Byron's like, oh, I'm sure the kids will appreciate it. You're such a dedicated teacher. Emily asks to talk to Garrett alone. No. Emily says she doesn't know who to talk to, Aria and Hannah, and tells Garrett about the Logan Reed hiring. Garrett asks how she knows about it, and Emily says she found him at his place of work. Garrett says, we're burying the killer. What are you asking me to do with this information? He says, you know what? You need to keep trying to find that woman, and you did the right thing telling me. Emily says, okay, thank you. We see the crowd gathering around the casket as it's lowered into the ground. The friends all then take dirt to toss into the grave. It made it
sound like they were like at a concert.
Yeah.
The crowd gathers round.
Mm-hmm. And they're all dancing and confetti, led by Hannah. No, but the friends are the ones to toss dirt into the grave. You would think...
Closure.
Yeah. Instead of Melissa, maybe Melissa didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
She would be the only other person too, but... I mean, why would she at this point, I guess? Aria sees Jason sitting far away from the crowd on a bench. Emily walks up to Aria, asking if she's waiting for Fitz. Aria says she's waiting for her parents. They both wonder who Jason is waiting for. Aria says maybe the same reason we are, like maybe the same reason we are, that he's waiting around for closure. Exactly. And then Emily says we should probably to spit on Ian's grave. And Aria's like, no, probably for closure. And Emily says, I don't trust Jason anyway. He's a freak and always has been. And then leaves. Aria then goes to move toward Jason before Fitz approaches.
I just figured out why she does that. She loved Allie the most, so that's what Allie said about her brother.
Oh, that makes way more sense. I was like, damn, this is just 0 to 30, but yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
She blindly trusted Allie.
Yes, and that is Emily to a T.
Loyal.
Yeah.
To.
It's really funny though. Just he's a freak. And Aria's mad at Fitz's comments at the funeral about just being there for the student body. Fitz says he meant to be there for her, but the time wasn't right. Aria's like, well, when is the right time? We keep dipping our toes in. And Fitz says, telling your parents is a cannonball. Aria says, I wish I could just blame you, and I really needed a hug from you today. Not tomorrow or later at your apartment, even. Right now. Fitz looks at her and says, I'll call you later. Aria then walks toward Jason. Hannah sees...
Find a new man.
Exactly. What about the nice man putting up a fence in his yard?
You know, the brother of your dead friend.
The freak.
Well, who are you if you're not dating a freak as decided by your friends?
That's right.
Caleb. Mm-hmm. Toby.
Yeah. The list is sure to go on, I am sure. New guy rolls into town. He's a freak.
What if they're just obscenely nice to every other guy?
Right, exactly. Well, that's when you're in trouble. Hannah sees Caleb's foster mom at school and stops her by calling her name, which is Janet. Hannah says she's a friend of Caleb and she knows about her deal with Caleb and it has to stop. She's like, you see my mom over there? Ashley's through a doorway, and it's like she's a lawyer and works for
Dolce and Gabbana and something else,
like Leibowitz or something. And that Janet needs to give Caleb the money that he's owed until he's 18 or she'll haul her into court. Janet leaves and Hannah is quite proud. Aria walks up to Jason and says, thanks again for helping my brother out. Aria asks why he gave Mike a free pass, and Jason says, probably because Allie threatened to turn me in all the time. Aria sits next to him and asks if she ever did turn him in. Jason says she was too smart for that. She was fearless when she needed to be, and he was always jealous of that and of her. Jason says that's probably why my parents can't look at me. They lost the wrong kid. Aria says, don't say that, and says maybe Jason coming here was a mistake. Jason says just the opposite. You don't know how good it feels knowing it wasn't me. Jason says, I don't remember the night that Allie died. I blacked out, and all I did was wake up with a hangover. And pulls out a note that says, I know what you did, but it's written in highlighter. Aria asks, who gave you this and what does it mean? Jason says, I don't know, and it almost destroyed me. When I got loaded, I got jealous and angry. But Ian's confession changed everything. He did it, not me. And Aria looks very disquieted by this. Spencer says she's going out to Melissa. Melissa stops her and says, hey, I just wanted to let you know it's a girl. Spencer congratulates her, and Melissa apologizes for choosing Ian over Spencer. Says she couldn't believe that Ian could do that to someone. Finding out those things that he did is like losing him twice. Melissa says she's lied so much and to so many people because she thought she was protecting an innocent man. Spencer tries to tell her about the ring, but Melissa interrupts her, saying there's something she needs to get out that Spencer doesn't know. A phone then rings in Spencer's bag. As Spencer pulls it out, Melissa asks why she has Ian's phone. Remember the phone that was put in her bag at the end of last episode by the hand? And Spencer's like, I don't know why I have this. Melissa's like, you sent me all those texts. Spencer says, I didn't do that. And Melissa says, you must really hate me, and throws the phone into the wall as it breaks. Melissa says, I will never forgive you for this. Ella is folding clothes as Byron stops by to check on her and asks what's wrong. You're scaring me. You're even washing clothes that are already clean. Ella says everything just feels dirty. He was this teacher at school, this seemingly nice guy, and he was just I was just saying hi to him in the hallway. Mike then stops by, says he's going out with his friends, and don't do my laundry anymore. Garrett meets Logan at his place of work, hands him a duffel bag full of money, and says, "I won't be seeing you again." And Logan says, No, you won't. Garrett calls Jenna and says it's taken care of. Hannah calls for her mom and sees a note, on a computer monitor that says she's out shopping. Ashley be shopping. Caleb stops by to check on her with food. I don't really get the reference to the ice joke that
because
they're making.
She didn't have ice when she offered him a drink. She was like, "Do you want a drink?" And she's like, "Do you want ice?" And she's like, "Oh, we don't have ice." And then she's like, "Do you want something to eat?" And he's like, "Do you have food?" And she was like, "No."
Got it. That's where the ice was from. Caleb says Janet just showed up out of nowhere with an envelope full of cash. Hannah says, "Wow, how crazy. How'd that happen?" Caleb says, "I gotta go, back to Lucas's because we're watching the Goonies tonight." He then kisses Hannah on the forehead, and Hannah says, "What was that for?" And Caleb mentions the law firm that Hannah made up to Janet and laughs. And she laughs too. And as Caleb goes to leave, she stops him and kisses him. Crescendo. Emily arrives home and gets a text from A. Sometimes the shortest distance from plot A to plot B is the long way around. Emily checks the map from the envelope, which is of the graveyard, and makes a discovery and grabs her phone to text the friends. The friends are then all walking in the graveyard at night. Aria asks why they're here. Emily says, "I think A set us up." Spencer then agrees with her. Aria asks what it means, and Emily says, "I think A took Ian's body, made it look like a suicide." Aria says, "Why is A helping us when we were trying to get to Ian?" Spencer says, "But of course A wanted us to circle Ian." And then Emily follows up with, "How do we know for sure that Ian is Allie's killer? A provided us with all the evidence that led us to that conclusion." Emily then finds Allison's grave, and they're all standing there, but then they're all suddenly shocked as they see a projection of the You Want to Kiss Me video on the mausoleum. It's an extended version where we see afterward that Allie's hand that was on the ground, it then moves and we can see she's still alive as Ian gets dressed to leave and kisses her goodbye, and Allie thanks him for meeting her. We then cut to the girls looking around for the projector in the night as we see a dark figure holding what we only assume is the projector in their hands and walk off.
Now you want to kiss
me?
Mm-hmm. Okay. How long has Ian actually been dead? What's your theory here?
Yeah, so going back to the theory from last week is that he did in fact die by bell tower ropes.
He died by bell tower?
Exactly.
Okay.
So he's been dead since then. So the body was picked up, put on ice, brought over there. And then A was texting. We'll get back around to that. A was texting Melissa.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, you'll have to explain that to me when we get there. But
yes.
What crimes are A's versus Ian's versus Mike's?
Well, okay, so I was originally assuming that it was Caleb that was
stealing camping gear and stuff
exactly,
like that.
because Caleb was camping, but then we learned that Caleb is just in the boys' room.
They're in their bunk beds.
Exactly, smoking in the boys' room.
I don't think Lucas is smoking in the boys' room.
No, Lucas is not a smoker. But so obviously now we know that Mike is just committing petty theft.
What do rich kids do for fun?
I'm just acting out. I'm gonna go steal my sister's friend's camping gear. I don't know. Maybe maybe the camping gear is where they go smoke weed or something. I'm still on to that. He's maybe doing drugs somehow, and it's gonna be a.
So do you think it's just random that he broke into her friends' houses?
Mike?
Yeah.
No, someone's egging him on. And that's where him briefly hanging out with Noel and that being a thing is oh, maybe Noel is egging him on to do this shit.
I have no memories of this, so
yeah.
I'm right.
Yeah. I don't think it's anything of consequence. I think Mike is just doing weird shit off somewhere. Weird shit being B&E. And then I'm gonna go break into Jason's house.
Yeah.
Or it's just like,
well, that's Allie's house.
Right. But also could be the boring answer could literally be boring rich kid shit that are just like, I dare you to go break into these houses. I'm so much better at breaking into houses.
Mm-hmm.
This like play on like rich or teen malaise, so they like act out and like go do like destructive things. They're not graffitiing or things or like dirt cladding. They're just
out there breaking in,
breaking into houses. Exactly. Okay, so then what is A's and Ian's crimes?
You know what I mean? Like what's like, did A delete the stuff off Spencer's computer, or did Ian? Did A delete the stuff off Emily's computer, or did Ian?
So did A delete off Spencer's computer?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're wondering.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember that when it was the dance?
Yes, because then that got picked up, and they were like, oh, we got to go into Ian's thing, but then they didn't find it in there. Mm-hmm. So I don't think Ian did that.
Okay.
And I also think A is the one that erased stuff off of Emily's.
Okay.
So because A is threading them along without ever getting too close. Like A is entrapping them like A does in this episode, and then they, Emily makes the good deductive reasoning. Then it's just like, we have been, A wanted us to point toward Ian, and then it also still following the clues that A is giving them because they're trapped. Because what are they to do other than keep following the clues, so then they can find out what in the hell this is, even if it is going to be another dead end where A just gets to spook them.
Fair enough.
But as for Ian's crimes, yes, he did video. we know that for certain. And then I still think he's not the killer, but like the line that will always stick out to me about Ian is that he thought he was Allie's killer. So before this episode, I was like, did we get more that I have to add to the timeline of Allie's death across these two ones? The night that Allie died. We don't really. We just kind of have nebulously like Jason getting drunk, and then now we get something nebulous that Allie left the spot after. Yes, the kissing rock. So like
its name.
That's right.
Kissing rock.
So Ian is could have met up with her at some other point because he seemed guilty. He even talks about how like he didn't mean to like hit her that hard or something. It was like hit her head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he at least thought he was.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think any of those three killed Allison then. If she is dead. That's always a back pocket one.
Okay.
That's never my main theory.
Got it.
Because I don't want it to be that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not as exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the, well, we can just pull the rug out on you because there was just off screen the entire time, which they might totally do, and I wouldn't be surprised. But that's not as fun. I would rather have the one where it's just like, the best mysteries are where it's just tantalizing enough to where it's like you could, because once it's revealed, conceivably like look back and like at least kind of put things together.
Mm-hmm.
But someone dies in off screen. We've talked about this in previous episodes.
We're not gonna know who hit her in the head for a long time. So buckle in, baby.
There we go. Yes, and I never thought at least the Allison murder would be quite as solved as figuring out who the hell A is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So you think we'll get an A reveal before we solve the murder mystery?
Yeah, completely.
Mm-hmm.
Because A is not going to be, like I said, I still think that A is some antagonistic force that is. No. Sorry, that was the addendum because Jason is now the Black Hoodie who is trying to find out who killed Allison. Which I mean, we get at least some confirmation of that in this episode.
We get confirmation that Jason's the Black Hoodie.
No, that wants to find out who.
Got it. Yeah.
You don't remember that line where he says like, "Well, and I also pushed Ian off the bell tower, so I feel partially responsible for his death."
I was like, "Huh, I missed that part."
Uh-huh.
must have been eating too loud.
He mumbles it.
Oh.
So you had to have the subtitles on. I think you looked away.
Yeah. No, when I'm eating my chips, I'm real loud.
Right. Come.
Okay. Jackie.
Yeah.
What's she gonna do with this info?
I know. I was still on the that she's was gonna try and pressure Fitz into you need to say something. You need to stop this now. You need to say something. But
that sounds reminiscent of a different character we know. Allison.
Oh yes. Oh yeah, isn't that true? That's a good one. I hadn't thought about that. Of when Spencer, or she was bugging Spencer about having to say something.
Mm-hmm.
But would it be more fun if Fitz has yet another null con to deal with? Another person who is just well, I won't say anything if you follow my blackmail.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what she would want. We don't know Jackie. She's just
We don't know Jackie, do we?
Nope. She's just on campus, works there, and is bugged out by this.
She sure is. Isn't that interesting?
Yes, and I like that she's immediately oh yes, you're Mr. Montgomery's daughter. I want you to know that I'm at least onto you, but not that I'm completely onto you. I want you to just freak out enough.
Mm-hmm.
So if we got another null, then I'm all for it. That'd be good.
Anyone to pick at the seam of Ezria?
Yeah, I like the idea of the antagonistic character that isn't going for the morally good.
Yes,
virtues.
Morally ambiguous.
Yes. Chaotic evil, in a sense.
Spencer's mom's apologies, and just in the next episode we can just unpack the Hastings parenting techniques and the lack thereof.
Yeah, Mrs. Hastings, like I said, she's a good mom in short bursts.
Quarterly parent.
Exactly. She shows up again. I didn't realize how horrible I was being to you. Will you forgive me? Will you it'll be okay? And she's done this before again of just well, Spencer, sorry I wasn't there for you.
When Spencer was on was accused of being the murderer.
Yes. And how quickly we fell back into, well, I think you shouldn't be blaming Ian.
Mm-hmm. You remember how it felt to be accused of murder.
That he tried to kill you. We're ignoring the bruises on you, Spencer.
Yeah, it's really weird that you got hurt. It can't be that. Must have been
right.
a misunderstanding.
Yes. Again, they're still the example of the, even with this, it's very funny to have them mended because they're the example of the parents that are never there, that are just letting them run wild. Most consistent parents, it'd probably be Ashley.
Mm-hmm. She is who she is, and as a parent, every single time.
Exactly, and is still doing the right thing by her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, way to go, Ashley. Can't catch a break.
Ella,
she's the only one. Also, this just runs in the Marin family that we get them expressing their emotions and characters of, oh my God, I'm terrified every time you leave the house, which is fair enough. Their close friend was missing for a year, turned out to be murdered. And all kinds of things keep happening to them. Also, it's funny that you had mentioned, I don't know if it comes up later on your notes, this is just a side tangent, that it's they kept Lorelai and Rory apart for 8 episodes. The girls, 4.
And they kept Lorelai and Rory apart in that season of Gilmore Girls for half the season, if not more. Whereas this show, you can't do that for that long. And even then, the whole time they tried to see each other, which makes it better television.
Exactly, which was part of the therapist plan.
I'm still unpacking that one, but that's fine.
But it worked.
So who was the woman on the phone for the who paid for the drop off?
Oh, no one. It was covering for Garrett.
No, but who called the guy at the oh my God, what's his name?
Yeah, I think that's just a cover story for Garrett. So that's why Garrett, when he talks to Emily, is you find that woman, knowing that it's him.
Oh.
That's a story he's feeding Emily.
That's not what you told me that night.
Did I not? Did I say it was Jenna?
You said it was Jenna.
Yeah. Okay. So I changed my mind.
I was like, I literally have a follow-up question because I knew your answer. So
oh, I'm sorry. I'm throwing you off.
It's okay.
But yes, I was. Jenna is in cahoots, but I think well, isn't that something? That could also be that Garrett is then throwing potentially Jenna under the bus. Keep digging for that, Emily. Keep digging to try and find that woman, knowing that it could be Jenna, because she's the one connected.
And then, like, why would Jenna do it?
Because she's connected with Garrett. And that was because that was interfering to stop Ian, right? No, that
was the woman. So whoever called and asked him to do the money drop off Ian was a woman.
Right, but it wasn't. So we know Ian wasn't the one that did the money drop off. So Garrett, and the video was still in play during that time, right? The videos. Yeah, so I think that would have been like Garrett and Jenna doing the play to get the videos.
Do you think they were trying to get the videos?
Or at least Jenna was. But I don't know what Garrett was trying to do.
Did Ian know that there was a fake going?
No, because Ian wasn't going at all. Because remember, that's when he runs into Spencer.
But he was like, oh, your friends are there waiting for me.
Exactly. I'm not going into that trap.
Okay. I accept.
We have a deal.
Spencer's temporary Nancy Drew hiatus, very short-lived.
Yep. Passes the magnifying glass. I'm like, what else of Nancy Drew's could I like point out for a close? Magnifying glass off to Emily, and Emily's like, mastermind. Yeah, she's like, I'm not Nancy Drew. I'm Sherlock.
She was like, oh, you want an Agatha Christie notebook?
Like, goddamn, like to make the jump from like, these are all A texts. Don't know how she did it. But like, damn. But then A even has to prod her along a little bit. It's like the plot A to plot B. Show up at this graveyard.
What does Garrett know? Is he just in it for the videos? He just wants the videos? Because they had Jenna in them?
No, yeah, exactly. So there's got to be more that like Garrett is making a play at. I think that's maybe what Jenna thinks. Because of their relationship or whatever. She like goes to him. It's just like, I'm gonna be ruined, and he's like, don't worry, I'm gonna take care of this for you. But like,
and why pay off Logan to leave? Why not just like pay him off to keep it?
Right. Well, it's easier if he's gone. Don't have Emily like coming by again, like, hello again.
Are they that afraid of this 16, 17-year-old girl?
Yes. They're doing a lot to, well, this is Jenna.
No, if you were Garrett.
I know, but like he says it's done, Jenna. So this is also Jenna because he calls her afterwards. So Jenna's still involved, and Jenna's like, we need to cover her.
Fair enough.
I would also be afraid of these like girls, especially if like.
So then you still think that it wasn't Jenna who called, even though Jenna's involved?
Yes.
Okay.
I think Garrett handled all of it.
Okay. I just love that you have that caveat. I don't know if it's right or wrong. It just to me is the randomest place to be like, no. Because why? Well, she's in the video. Why would she not be the person?
The call?
Yeah.
Because Garrett's handling all of it. He's like, I'll handle this for you. But then see also that he can turn it back around and be like, oh, actually it was Jenna who did it. She was the one who called the phone. I'm clean. It's a way of like setting himself up to be
Jenna
clean.
Do it?
Because he is still handling it, and then he can like obfuscate it.
Okay.
So he's playing both sides.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Gains her trust.
Okay. I just think it's so random.
This is the crux in which this entire show rests on.
Probably.
Given my track record, not at all.
Okay. Hey, we figured out what Emily's problem was with Jason. It finally clicked for me today. It was
that's
for Allie.
That's perfect. I'm glad you thought of that. I would have never reached there.
Aria and Jason's conversation.
Uh-huh.
Who knows what he did? What did he do?
Mm-hmm.
Who wrote that?
I'm going to say Melissa. She's the one who is like, that's the only one we have a connection to right now, of Melissa being like looking off into the distance and being like, he's not very trustworthy. But that's the only clue I have. So I'm just going to go with Melissa because that's the only one that seems to have like an actual problem with him, not like abstracted, where the girls have no real connection to him other than Aria being like, he's misunderstood. He's the Boo Radley of our town.
This sounds very reminiscent of Toby.
It really is. That's why Jason's like, Toby, we're not so different, you and I. Can I pay you for this contract work? So that's who I think knows what he did. What in the hell he did, I've no idea. Yelled at Allie, got in an argument with Allie, shoved Allie.
You think it had to do with Allie?
Yeah.
Why would Melissa then give him a note that had to do with Allie?
Yeah. I don't know. Because I have a theory about Melissa being A.
Okay.
That's my only connection. It's loose.
That's fair.
Yeah, but that's what I think happened, that it looks like Jason might have done something to hurt Allison. Okay. Or maybe he did. He could have gotten in a physical altercation with her.
So then is Melissa's A story, and we can dig into this more in your theories in a minute, like, is she also like secretly like feels sad about Allison? Or is she just using it?
Yeah, she's just using it. She's trying to get. Yeah,
we'll dig into that later. I just was like, I need to get my brain around that.
Yeah, trying to get things over on people.
Why?
In connection to Allie, because she's got probably some weird history there. But we'll come back to that.
Why did Melissa break Ian's phone?
Why don't we button that?
Okay.
Isn't it convenient that Ian's phone is now destroyed?
Mm-hmm. Who set up the projector?
Melissa.
It's okay. So it's A for sure.
Yes. Okay. Alternate theory also being Noel, who's like actively. But I don't know. That's like. Noel potentially being misplaced anger for getting like suspended. But why would he have an extended reel of Allie unless he was A, which is like another theory? You make it sound like
it's like the Lord of the Rings. Like we have the extended cut.
God, you should hear the commentary where it's just like, when Allison put her hand down like that, she broke her finger.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
Okay.
The one Lord of the Rings behind the scene things I could pull.
What happened the night Allie died?
That is a good goddamn question. People have lived lives.
Uh-oh. You okay?
Yeah,
good. Right into the mic.
Your guess is as good as mine, though. She ran off and ran off and got in some trouble. But yeah, my next best guess is that the next piece of evidence we're gonna get, like continuing on in that, is that she leaves that place, gets into an argument with Jason that I mentioned there.
Okay.
Where it's some sort of altercation with him. Episode 28, Never Letting Go. The friends all sort flyers for the upcoming fashion show and wonder why A sent them onto Ian's trail. Spencer does clarify that Ian tried to kill her over his own videos. They then mention that Allison could have gotten killed on her way home or later. Spencer stays on Ian's case, saying he could have still potentially done this. And Hannah says, oh my God, it's like, dude, like, who do we think, like, actually, do we think A killed Allie? Hannah asks Aria. We then move on from all this like baggage of A and murders to dates, boys, and fashion. Hannah asks Aria if Fitz is coming to the show, and she says he's away. And Aria asks if Caleb's coming, and Hannah says, no, we only kissed. Aria gets a text, and Spencer says, if it's from Fitz, answer it. Emily's like, wow, Toby has made you such a romantic. Toby. That was one thing I was going to bring up last episode. I understand guest stars, you can't have them in every episode, but it's like, you think you would have had Toby in, like, the one where, like, Spencer is, like, putting on a funeral. I digress. Emily mentions how...
Especially considering he was accused of that murder.
Yeah, exactly. You'd think, like, we don't get any catharsis on his side. That's a really good point of him being like, yeah, I'm really glad. Maybe we'll get that later. Emily mentions how Toby has molded Spencer into romantic. Spencer says, I've always been a romantic. Isn't it nice? We all have boyfriends and girlfriends now. And Hannah's like, I don't have one. Aria...
Somewhere Caleb's chest hurts and he doesn't know why.
Aria walks out of the room to answer the text, and it's from Jason asking to meet. Aria replies back yes and leaves. To me, which looked like an Irish goodbye. But to Emily, it was like, well, she said that she was like going to take care of it.
Yeah, she said she'd be back.
Aria walks up to Jason pulling up in his car. Jason asks if they can talk for a second, and Aria's like, takes this as like to get in the car.
Well, he does motion for her to get in the car.
Oh, okay. Jason says he said things he shouldn't have at the funeral, that I should have kept it to myself. I don't want people getting the wrong idea. Aria says, don't worry, I won't say a word. I owe you anyway for helping keep quiet on Mike. Jason says, hey, my mom's coming into town tomorrow, before she steps down from the board. Jason mentions Allie loved the fashion show, and Aria then gets out and leaves as we get a POV shot of someone watching them from across the street. Hannah arrives home to her parents cooking a goodbye dinner for Tom before he leaves tomorrow. Hannah asks, what's for dessert? Or are you saving that for your new family? And walks off. Toby and Spencer kiss in Spencer's doorway. Spencer asks for Toby's help building tables for the fashion show, and he agrees. He wishes her good night and leaves. Spencer turns around, happy, as her dad comes down the stairs, arguing on the phone about Jason being back home. They mention offhandedly that Melissa is gone on some vacation. That's why she's not here. Mr. Hastings says the person on the phone was some board member bugging him about the fashion show. Spencer then redials the phone and find out that it's Jason's mom, Jessica De Laurentiis. Emily hears her mom on the phone with her father, and Emily asks to talk to him as well. After she hangs up, Pam looks sad and says, oh, I miss your father. And Emily's like, well, you were just in Texas 3 days ago. Why don't you visit Dad this summertime, and I could stay with a friend and join both of you in June? Pam's like, I'll think about it. Thank you. I mean, I guess if there's no murder around, no reason to not leave your child. Spencer explains her dad.
Is that how? You know what? Never mind. We don't have to unpack that.
Spencer explains her dad's phone call to Aria. Aria wonders why he lied to Spencer. Spencer says the real question is what's happening with Jason and what is he hiding? Aria says, I don't know. Maybe he's just coping and who knows what he's feeling. Spencer then gets an email from Jason's mom and is too scared to open it. Aria's like, wait, I got the same email. Why does Jessica De Laurentiis want to have lunch with us? We then cut to the friends all at the grill with Allie's mom. Spencer says she must be happy Jason's back, and Jessica says, I don't really think of that house as ours anymore. Emily says, we all thought it was odd that he moved back in. Jessica says Jason came into his own family money recently and can do with it what he pleases. Jessica hands them all big gift boxes, like dress boxes, and asks if Allie ever showed the friends these dresses. We then get a flashback. Allison is in a long sequin dress. Hannah is like, oh my god, that's so pretty. Can I try one of these? And Allison says there's not enough stretch. Lovely friend. She says there are dresses for all of them and that they are all one of a kind, just like you all. Remember now that there were 4 dresses. Back to the present. Emily says she picked these out, that Allison had picked them out. And Jessica says, yes, she did, and it's a shame she can't wear them. Jessica says it would be great to have Allison's dream realized. The friend asks if she's asking them to wear the dresses in the fashion show, and Jessica says, yes, please. Again, this was not meant for Hannah. The friends all discuss it, and Hannah says, absolutely not, we are not doing this. I am not wearing a dead girl's clothes. The other 3 are much more agreeable. Spencer says that we don't have much of a choice because Jessica De Laurentiis already ran it by the board. Emily asks if she needs to run her speech by Jessica as well. And Aria says, well, you know what? I can just run these by Jason.
I think it was like photos.
Oh, yeah, photos. And then the friends are all shocked, and Aria's like, what? It could be good for him. Spencer goes to drop off programs to Mona. Mona then pulls her aside to show it's like, actually, we have all these lovely revamp like flyers and programs. Spencer's like, why did nobody tell me about this? I spent all night folding these. Mona says, well, you were gone and we thought you were going to jail. Mona's like, we revamped everything in your absence, and we also got a DJ. Say hello to Noel. And Spencer is not happy about it, just like, hi, Noel. Mona mentions that like she's like chairing, like the chair was empty since Spencer was gone, so like I had to make tough decisions, and I became the chair. Sumera helps Emily sew Emily's dress for the fashion show. Emily invites her to the show, and Sumera says, well, I have plans with a friend that night. And Emily's like, well, bring them. And Sumera's like, okay. Aria looks through Allie's old photos of Allie as Ella walks in. Aria asks if it's possible to black out and not remember anything. Aria then tells a story where a male friend had a night where this had happened. Ella says sometimes like this can definitely happen. Sometimes like people just file things away until they're ready to deal with them, and something can shake these memories loose.
The selective blackout, Ella?
Yes. Aria, you're giving your daughter bad ideas. Hannah studies at home and has a little dance scene with her headphones in as her dad rounds the corner and surprises her. Hannah asks what he's doing here because she thought he left to go back to his fiancée. Tom says, we fight every time I leave, and maybe I didn't want to leave, and leave everything on a sour note. Tom says he misses being around for Hannah's activities. Hannah says, you're just around here for Mom. Tom says, we're just getting along. It's nothing more than that. Hannah says, I see the way you're hanging out and looking at her, and you can't admit it. Hannah then puts her headphones in as he leaves. Aria and Jason scroll through old photos on her laptop, old photos of Allison on her laptop at school. Jason asks if his mom asked her to do this, and Aria says, yes. Aria shows Jason a photo of Allison the day she came back from Georgia, aka the day before she died. Jason says she looks happy. You can go ahead and use it. Aria continues to press him about this and runs down the details of all the day of like she disappeared, and Jason just keeps going, sure, okay. Aria's like, well, I just want to make sure it wasn't weird or anything. And Jason says, like, I don't remember anything about this day. And like, what are you doing? Why are you meeting with me? Aria says, I'm just trying to make sure your mom's going to be like okay with this. And Jason calls her bluff. And he's like, I feel like I'm being interrogated. And like, I don't remember anything about this day. And Aria's like, this was a mistake. Jason's like, yes, I agree it was a mistake, and I won't be making this again. Mona,
win our budding romance.
I know. Of Aria being like, are you sure this doesn't jog any memories? Mona and Spencer run the fashion show. Spencer is immediately getting tired of Mona's managing. Hands to the other three friends, and Hannah asks for another ticket for her dad. Aria says, why is he around anymore? There's no way like your parents are getting back together. Spencer vents to Toby backstage about Mona taking over, and Toby says, Mona stepped in. Well, there are big things happening in your life, and maybe we should just be happy those big things are over. Spencer agrees, even though Toby's kind of missing the mark because Mona is being very annoying. But you know what? We've put all that aside to remember to join the fashion show.
Remember, is this a Mona show now?
Exactly. The friends are all backstage. Samara arrives with her friend Quinn and Emily's dress. Samara and Quinn are like kind of like buddy, which we can kind of interpret being like semi-flirty in front of Emily, and leaves. Emily is just like, hey, did that seem like flirty to you guys? And and they're all kind of like, yeah. Hannah's like, how do I not have a date, but Emily's date has a date? Toby arrives and kisses Spencer. Mona then runs up to Spencer and hands her a headset, and it's like, gives her all these orders. You gotta go run, do this. Ashley, Ella, and Pam. We get like just a parent scene all together of them alone, just like talking. They all talk about Pam's potential trip. Ella encourages her to go, and Ashley mentions how quickly you can pick things back up. They then notice that Jessica De Laurentiis shows up. Spencer sees Jessica and her dad getting in an argument backstage, sees her dad storm off angrily. Backstage, Emily seems sad. Ugh. About the Knight's turn. Bad, sad, mad. All the emotions.
Through all his ad words real quick.
Hannah walks off to go get champagne for them. Ashley sees Tom and tells him not to beat himself up for Hannah's words. He says it's his fault for dropping back in unexpectedly. They then have a reconnection moment where Ashley pretty much admits that she's moved past all of Tom's indiscretions. Hannah rounds the corner and sees her parents dancing. She then turns back around to head backstage. Arias sees Jason and his mom walk by, and her and Jason just exchange these intense, awkward glances. Emily asks Samara if she looks okay in her dress. Emily then asks Samara if her and Quinn were just friends. Samara then tells her, oh yeah, since diapers, we're just friends, that's alright. But would it bother you if I was seeing someone? Emily says, I thought we have a connection. Samara says, yes, but we've only been out a few times and you wanted to take things slow. Emily then walks away, annoyed. Mona announces showtime, and the friends all huddle to Spencer, saying, hey, did you see that Caleb's out there? Hannah's like, well, I didn't invite him, and they all pressure her to get back with him. Mona then runs in and shouts showtime again. Fashion, showtime, and a runway montage. Excuse me.
We forgive you.
There's a cut in the middle of the runway montage paying tribute to Allison as the friends all walk out in the dresses.
I assume it's the end.
Mm-hmm. The music then cuts. The background video fades to flames encompassing Allison's face. There is a voice on the punk track that goes, listen up, the bitch is back, as punk music plays. The words evil, bitch, and monster then scroll over her face on the video. Spencer then runs up to Noel and she's like, turn it off. He's like, I can't. And Spencer then unplugs the cables duh, you idiot. Once it's cut, Jason and Jessica stand up and leave. After the fashion show, Spencer mentions that she tried to call Jessica, but Jason picked up the phone and said that she didn't want to talk right now. Caleb wanders up to Hannah and asks what that was all about, and Hannah says, I don't know. Caleb asks if he can walk her home, and Hannah says, okay. The friends all wonder what happened as we hear mic feedback, and the video screen changes to my dresses, my game, my rules. The friends all then immediately want to leave, but they let Aria go backstage alone to grab her things. Aria then grabs all the Tresemme product placement as Noel walks up behind her, asking if Aria wants her CD back. Don't want you to leave anything lying around that could get you and your friends in trouble. Aria says, I assumed that was yours. Jason then walks up and asks what it is. Aria says, that's the planned finale, and he then asks Noel to hand it over and breaks the CD in front of him. Noel then kind of looks weird and leaves. Pam talks to Emily in her room and says, no one thinks that the friends were responsible for that happening. You look just as surprised as everybody. Emily then asks if Pam and Wayne saw other people when they were dating. Pam says, we had that conversation really early, and I made it clear to him that it had to be me and no one else. Pam says you can stay with Hannah while you visit your father in Texas until summertime, and Emily's like, yes, amazing, you should go, adios. Hannah arrives home to Tom looking at photos on his phone of the fashion show. Really clear photos on his BlackBerry.
Taken on a professional camera for sure from the looks of them, because I don't even think my current iPhone takes photos that good.
She asks if shouldn't he be at his hotel packing? He says he had to be back at the house to make sure you made it back home. Hannah asks what happened between you and Mom tonight. Tom says, you were right. It took you yelling at me to realize what I felt. And if I stay here, I have things to work out with your mom. Hannah says, okay, well then I'll see you tomorrow. And Tom leaves. Spencer arrives home to her dad in the kitchen. Spencer asks, what's going on between you and Miss De Laurentiis? And I saw the two of you together. Mr. Hazen's like, oh, it's nothing for you to worry about. But for the time being, just stay away from Jason. Aria talks with Jason at the fashion show venue. What are you still doing there? Aria says, how many times do we have to keep bringing up Allie's death? Jason said, if I were a stranger, I'd be fascinated with the dark details. Aria says That's us, brothers and friends of the deceased. We're the dark details. She asks why he's back and living in the house himself. Jason says, I'm trying to put the pieces together and find something. Aria says, you want to find out about that note. Jason says, for the time being, I'm just trying to figure out how to be happy, and I'm going to do that here. He asks if he can drive her somewhere, and Aria's like, oh, yes, I could use a ride home.
Yeah, because all her friends left.
I know.
And her parents?
Where do you think Aria went? I don't know, backstage somewhere. Well, I mean, we're not waiting. Yeah, we're heading home. Now, if this was Ashley, she'd be like, I want to make sure that Hannah's okay. Ella and Byron are like, see ya. We trust her.
True, I guess they all did stay together, though, afterwards. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but like, I
don't know.
Yeah. And as they leave, the camera pans around to the candles on the table that form, they're like a bunch of tea lights that form an A. Cut to a gloved hand on a laptop, online shopping. And they look at some leather boots and purchase them.
I think they're Tory Birch riding boots.
Yeah. Good for them.
Are those the boots that Hannah asked Miss Sullivan about, or Dr. Sullivan about?
The boots?
Yeah, they Tory Birch.
I don't know. Because she does mention the boots in that, huh?
Mm-hmm. I just put that together now.
Yeah, interesting.
I don't know. I also don't know if that ever leads anywhere.
Yeah, that didn't particularly. It just stand out to me as like this big, deep thing. It's just like A's just shopping. A's shopping.
Nice boots. And in whose size?
That's right.
Okay. So, is A the killer?
No.
Okay. That's it. Well,
I don't think so.
Will Aria keep Jason's secret from her friend? And if so, for how long? Or forever?
No, she's gonna tell her friends at some point, and that's when it's gonna seem like Jason is the killer. And then she'll be like, well, I have something to tell you guys, but otherwise she's gonna keep her secret.
Okay.
Aria's good about that.
Yes.
Until it seems like there's something that there's like that she should be concerned about, then she'll tell him.
Mm-hmm. She does keep secrets.
Talk to her father.
Why are they so weird about the dresses? Would you wear it?
I also think it would be a little weird.
I feel bad for Hannah because it was obviously like a bullying incident.
Right. But where Hannah was not included on that.
Well, they were never for the other girls.
Right.
They were all for Allison.
For Allison,
and
right.
Hannah asked if she could try it on, and Allison said there wasn't enough stretch in it.
Right.
But she had 4 dresses, like how she had 4 best friends.
Yeah. I would similarly be weirded out by it, just especially with how weird you would still feel about Allison as a friend, and then it's just like, oh, do it for your friend, but then it's a weird.
You're doing it for the mom.
Yeah, exactly. And then you also have to stand on stage and be at the runway, which the wealth in this town mostly goes unspoken about. This is not even the show. This is even like less class conscious than and I think for good reason, than like even like Veronica Mars, where it's just like wrong side of the tracks, which is like that is really off the mark most of the time because it still prioritizes all the rich people in town. But you know, Logan. But I mean, this is just like it is just everybody's affluent, but there's no like real commentary on like what it is to be like. You would think that there could be a tact in this show of being like these of like rich girls getting into like keeping secrets from each other, and like this is like part of being like the like rot at like the upper class like sort of thing, and like how like that bubbleness of being insulated with wealth like causes these like secrets to fester, and these like close-knit communities.
Yeah, the money has very little to do with the show.
Totally, yeah. And even the community itself has very little to do with the show. They only like really mention it. But having an entire fashion show that is just run for like a charity, we assume, it's like, oh yes.
Yes. Yes.
Look at how rich they are.
let's talk
and
about
I don't think that's like necessarily that thing. Like I said, like it's.
Well, I think a lot of schools, like, or I don't know, a lot of schools, but like private schools or even like public schools will do fashion shows as like a charity thing because you borrow the clothes.
Got it.
You don't buy the clothes.
I just meant for like
the level that it was at,
or like trying to like navigate some sort of
like how that's a charity event.
No, or just like trying to navigate like some sort of like pulling in some sort of class consciousness that it doesn't like have. I don't think that's necessarily a negative because you just kind of like watch along and know that.
The boyfriends are how we learn about money.
Caleb.
Or before that, our buddy at the golf club.
Oh, yes. How soon I forget.
I know.
Alex.
You forgot Alex.
I know.
And Toby. Toby doesn't.
Yeah.
Toby needs money to get out.
Right, exactly. But his parents.
He's got a Lorelai situation.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of the fashion show, let's talk about Spencer and Mona. How do you feel?
I love them being combative, and I like that Mona has power over Spencer. So Spencer has like no like to stand on other than just being like, God damn it, like she's so annoying. And I think Mona being given power is a good thing.
You like this?
Yes. Just making everyone's lives miserable by being like, this is my way. And we're not going to do it anywhere else. And I have very specific demands and we're going to meet them.
I love your love for Mona.
Yeah, it's fantastic. She's the worst in the best way possible.
What's happening with Peter and Jason and Mrs. De Laurentiis?
Peter?
That's Spencer's dad. Peter Hastings.
I was like, you might be jumping the gun. Like pull the ripcord. Are you introducing me to a new character?
No. Peter Hastings. His name is Peter, I think.
I only write Mr. Hastings in my notes. I would believe you that his name is Peter.
Like how Ezra was Mr. Fitz for the first 14 episodes.
We dropped the Mr. because we're no longer his students. But that was another thing I wanted to bring up last episode, trouble in Fitz City. But that's all right. But going back to what's going on with Peter, and I think Peter and Jessica had like
he's just losing steam.
Yep. Seriously. Had my assumption would be that they had like some sort of like affair is what that's going to be revealed as.
Okay.
But I don't know, maybe Jason like knows or like saw them. Like that would be like my best guess.
Okay.
For why he like irrationally like hates Jason, or it is like a neighborhood thing of like he's driving down property values, building his house or building his fence. Yeah.
I want it to be that.
I really hope it is.
So bad.
That'd be so much better. I would love that, honestly.
Okay.
If it's like this, like gets into this like turf war of like their HOA not allowing this.
What HOA? They're so wealthy. I don't even think they have an HOA.
True. That'd be so much better. But that's my best guess at what that is.
Okay.
With Peter, aka Nathan Drake,
Mr. Hastings, Mrs. De Laurentiis, and Jason. And so Jason just knows.
Yes. Jason knows something that like is driving Mr. Hastings up the wall.
Or he's driving him up the wall with his fence.
Exactly, by lowering
even though the Hastings
property value. Right, but I mean like he's getting Toby to like do his work for him and digging up stuff in the yard and creeping out the neighborhood.
Okay. So
this is like the perceived property value sort of thing.
So and that's why he wants Spencer to stay away from him because he doesn't want Spencer to know.
Yeah.
Or he doesn't want Jason to.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I accept. Who made the video that came out at the end?
Oh, at the fashion show?
Yeah, the mean one.
I think that was Noel.
Okay.
Because Noel seems like so like Aria at the end. I don't know what he's trying to do. Like he's trying to be like, I'm gonna pin this on you. Is what that seemed like. So that's why I think he orchestrated it.
And then did you witness fight, flight, freeze? You have Spencer who went to go pull the thing and fight. You have Hannah and Emily who ran away, and Aria
so funny.
just fucking stood there.
I didn't see where the other girls went. That's fantastic.
Yeah, eventually they just like ran away. Like Hannah took Emily, I think, to the back, and then Aria's just standing there.
That's so good. Oh, that's
Aria's
amazing.
freezing is my favorite part of that because it's just like
shit. That's what I would do.
I would be the one that went to go pull the cord.
So relatable. Yes, so relatable.
Noel, Jason, Aria moment. Thoughts on that? When he was like, "Here, do you want your CD?" And Aria's like, "It was you." And Jason's like, "You know what? Maybe this Aria is all right."
Yeah, totally. Well, I think like, yeah, I think that's a good illustration of exactly what you said. Of like, yeah, I could like trust her. That like Aria wouldn't actually like do something, and is like, he has obviously feelings for her. Your pink hair, it was so cool.
It was so cool.
And so he's putting it a little bit behind him to like help her out and protect her a little bit.
Okay.
By breaking the CD, being like, yeah, so what? No, I'm all good.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay. I was like, oh no, he's dying. He's going down.
We'll survive.
Cool. Okay, I accept. I loved Aria asking Jason, like, why are you here? Like in town. I thought that was helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm glad someone asked him other than just being like, he's so weird building his fence and digging his holes.
I don't want to talk about this, but we should at least touch on it. Do we think Tom and Ashley are going to get back together?
Yeah.
How do we feel about Tom?
Don't like Tom. Like I said, he's going to get back with Ashley and then he's going to leave.
And he's go back to his other family?
Yeah.
Must be nice.
I know.
Just kidding. That sounds very stressful.
That sounds horrible. Why would you ever have two families?
I am enough, aren't I?
That's right.
If you want a new personality, you just let me know.
Yeah. Tom's just going to... This is me now. Tom is just going to take off one day. Like, writing's on the wall. And it's... So then it'll play also into teen drama of like, when do you trust your parents? When do you have to be an adult and not like mess with them? And like, what are the lines where you can let this person back in? And also, I think Hannah's gonna learn a lesson that you don't fucking meddle with your parents' relationship.
Okay. So now I'm ready for your theory corner because who's A and were they at the fashion show? Before we
step in the theory corner, I did want to at least briefly touch from last episode because we did not talk on Fitz no longer being here, but like the Aria pulling away from Fitz because Fitz is not actually like
I'm focusing on Jason. Moves.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is interesting because it's only going to set up probably Aria's eventual heartbreak in the future. And it's also still weird because there is that age gap yet again. But
does Aria ever have an age appropriate romance? Stay tuned.
I would be surprised if she did. This is a little rough. But what I wanted to flag is like, I can only assume with the love there seems to be for Ezria, without me like looking too deep, that this definitely caused some anger out there in the community of like them splitting up and her getting with Jason's like, no, this isn't right.
I don't know because I wasn't paying attention at this point. I was not a part of that. I was watching this on the DVD or on TV or whatever.
You were 2 years after.
Well, and I was also I was watching this. It might have been on TV. It might have been after. I don't know. This was summer of 2012?
Yes.
Or no. This was early 2012. I was watching season 3 on TV.
This is 2011, isn't it?
Is it?
Because it's the first bit of it.
I don't remember.
Let's do a quick Google search.
Regardless, I was not in the trenches. I was not out there with everyone else fighting. I also, was not looking things up.
2011.
Okay. Perfect. So I don't know. I assume so. I will say towards the end of the show, people got very specific on their couples. And there will be a point where there's a couple that I can speak to the amount of drama it brought. But until we get there, everything else seems so mundane in comparison. And if you've seen the show, you know. Mm-hmm. But like, it was truly upsetting for, I think, a lot of people. I was already in my 20s, so you're just kind of like, I was like, that's fair. Yeah. I was like, maybe. Huh. And then like, okay, I got to a point where I was like, I'm okay with this.
Got it.
And then of course, you know, you'll see where it ends. But there was a period of time where there was a very specific couple that people had very strong opinions about. In hindsight, I think a lot more people are like, oh God, Ezria was really bad.
Yes.
But in the moment,
so that's what I'm referring to.
The self-awareness was not there.
Yeah.
I do think with a lot of the relationships that come and go on the show, I think the one that was probably had the biggest fan base for the strongest amount of time is probably Caleb. I think people just love Caleb as a character.
I really get that.
Caleb is a really well done character, and it's because I'm pretty sure Caleb was made for the TV show.
Yeah.
Caleb is not from the books. He didn't exist in the books. I don't think. I haven't read them. And so I think because of that, they're able to do things with that character that and they kind of could design a character that slotted in perfectly without having to change a character that in the books was different. Because, you know, people are always like okay with and resistant to change. And I'm pretty sure all the characters by the time you get to like this point in the series, they're nothing like the books anymore.
Totally.
You know, it's like Spencer was smart, but like that's about it. Like, Hannah was blonde.
Right.
But like outside of that, I really don't think they kept a lot of it. So I assume so. I think there's points later too where there's some other relationships like this that I can speak to, but at this point in the show, I don't know. Down the road, we can talk.
Got it. Yeah, and speaking of Caleb too, Caleb also gets to be like cool and like not completely detached, but he has that kind of like effortless vibe to him, and he's also age appropriate, so like you completely understand.
He's the only one that's like the actual like age appropriate, like 100%. I mean, like, Toby's pretty close, but
he gets to be the cool guy while also being like emotionally understanding to go along with like Hannah, who again, third act Hannah. So like you understand like that relationship just feels good.
But yes, no, right now I could not say. I imagine, and if you were out there fighting for your life,
oh yeah,
let us know in the comments. Let us know. Because, or send us an email. You let us know. Yes. You tell us. Just don't give away what those other couples are in any of those emails, because if Brenton sees that in the inbox, then I will have to have a little meltdown.
deadendspcast@gmail.com. That is the podcast title, pcast@gmail.com.
Or you can leave in a comment on the YouTube video if you're watching.
That's right. Yeah, we'll take that too.
But yeah, I can imagine. Jason will be around for a while though. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere.
You keep an eye on Jason.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. I was like, oh, I wonder if this would ruffle feathers. But that's good to know. I'm intrigued as that moves along.
You're not going to be able to guess what couple happens at the end that really just like makes people so upset. You could not guess it if you threw darts at a board with the names on them.
Jesus. Okay.
I will give you nothing more.
Perfect. Are you ready then?
Yes.
Let's step into... Theory Corner. Welcome everybody to the Theory Corner, Brenton's Theory Corner. I give my theories and you listen and judge.
God, he's gonna die.
So we're still going with Melissa being A.
Okay.
And Melissa took his dead body down. Took Ian's dead body down. Put it.
Teeny tiny Melissa took Ian's dead body down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh wait, no. Still like the idea that Garrett is helping her out.
Okay.
Helping her out that he's the one who put the phone in the bag. While Melissa was like, pretending to, be scared that she saw Ian's body.
Do you think she went to Juilliard instead of like a different college?
Because, and I also think that the throwing knowing, like playing that she was playing dumb around like Spencer picking up the phone. It was like, oh, how do you have Ian's phone? Oh, you must have been the one texting me, and then throwing it against a wall to break it. Convenient, don't you think?
Indeed.
A bold gambit for sure, because if like maybe it's like it would have been password locked, so like Spencer would have been able to like open it up. But if Spencer had realized she had the phone, like what would she have found on there?
Or what would she have Nancy Drewed?
Totally. Okay. Wouldn't that have been interesting if she had found that she had Ian's phone in her bag and tried to like find things out?
Do you not think they would have deleted everything in Ian's phone before?
Oh yeah, that's probably true. Fair enough.
Baby, this is A. You got to be playing chess, not checkers.
That's right. That's why I'm not A. I'm playing checkers. And still getting tied to Allison somehow, getting back at like using that like springboard to like get back at people and like mess with people, and getting revenge on people. And I think she had a good reason to get revenge on Ian, obviously, because there was something that happened that it broke them up originally.
Okay.
Okay, so then we also have Jason as Black Hoodie, still trying to figure out what happened to Allison.
Okay.
So I think like even though he's telling Aria, he is still doing like more investigative stuff.
He's sleuthing.
Yeah, and I don't think that it could be like Garrett or Jenna, because we already know that they're like on the antagonistic side of the friends. So that's why I think it may be too obvious at this point. We want the reveal to be a little bit more like out of left field. So then that's why it could also be Noel, who is doing things off in the corner, but I think he's still doing more things that are like, I'm getting revenge and trying to torture you all, and because I was suspended from school, specifically Aria. So that's why he's like targeting her, but encompassing all of them. In the same way as like Jenna is like also antagonistic to the friends, but Jenna is really just trying to save her own hide, for the most part. Mr. Fitz could potentially still be there, but because he has secrets that we don't know about. He's in play. So that's all we know. Or it could just be completely out of left field and Jackie has something to do with all this. That is also a curveball. And
I was very Jackie suspicious when I watched the show the first time.
Yeah, I could totally see it.
She's noticing and not saying. What is she going to do?
Who is this person? What are her motivations? And then Allison could also still be alive, leading the friends along, torturing them probably because part of it is having fun, but also leading them along to like get revenge on people. Like Ian.
So if Allie was alive, she would be A. For sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then anybody else I'm forgetting? Oh, Alex, he's gonna come back and be
good for him.
Exactly. Good for him.
You know what? Good for him. It is a statement about class, actually.
That's right, exactly.
A really long
drawn out one. He's just kind of away. Yeah. So nothing new earth-shattering shaking for me, even though we did get exciting revelations and things of just more. We didn't really get a lot of revelations, I guess. It's just more
context,
exactly, and illuminations around the shady dealings of Garrett.
Well, and Jason in the note,
yes, as well. The things are moving, but yeah, I think that's it for me.
Any final thoughts then?
Okay, we're done with Theory Corner. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Bye-bye.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
You did great.
Everybody loves Theory Corner.
Everybody does love Theory Corner. People do love your theories.
Thank you.
Because they don't know. They know. You don't know.
Yeah, I do not know.
Actually, they do know. It's only you.
I am an island.
the only person who managed to not see any of the reveals except for the very last one. And even then, like how we get there.
So out of context.
You couldn't figure it out.
No. Why would you? But so any final thoughts? Yeah, this Tom Ashley stuff sucks. Poor Ashley.
Will we ever see Ren again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's beautiful, so.
Exactly. The beautiful British boy. He was actually just in the UK for the Queen's Jubilee.
Ren?
Yes. But he may come back into Melissa's life. That would be funny, wouldn't it? So anybody else? Anything else? I think that's it. Had a good time. We had one really jam-packed episode and one pretty light episode.
Yes. Shall we plug?
Let's do it.
All right. When we're not here doing this, sometimes I do life and career coaching. You can find all of the details around my life and career coaching at butreallythough.com. Brenton will link my link tree below. It'll have all of that. It'll also
have the descriptions and in all of our episode descriptions and on the about pages.
Perfect. I also post content on TikTok sometimes when I have energy and zest for life. And sometimes I post Brenton's theories and we privately all laugh at them together because he doesn't have TikTok. So if you really want to say something about it there, feel free to come over there if you're afraid to email it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to laugh with you and or ask your question. Have one.
That's right. Yep. And you can also, like I mentioned, send in emails and ask questions to deadendspcast@gmail.com. That is deadendspcast@gmail.com. You can also find the audio version of this podcast on all your podcast platforms of choice. We would love reviews, 5 stars. We don't do any advertising, and we are a small podcast. So any of that helps. We really appreciate it. And for the people, the person that left review recently, that was very nice of you. Thank you so much. And
they like your theories.
That was true. Yes, I do appreciate that. And then you can also find the video version of this on YouTube at Dead Ends. You can also find me on Twitter at Pile Brenton. And YouTube channel doing Let's Plays. Burger Discourse.
All linked below?
Yes, also in the link tree. And then eventually we'll get back to my blog. But it's in that link tree.
One day we'll all have energy to do more than one project at a
time. Good God, yes. I would love to do some writing.
Well.
In the meantime, we're still here. And we're going to find out everything.
Do you think you know anything?
But when I'm in theory corner, now that's where I'm confident.
That's fair. You know what? I love it for you.
Thank you.